space, a brand new chart for the head and for the heart. It's your journey, your tools.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are opening up a massive stack of research that bridges two really critical fields. The very actionable system of atomic habits and the, often abstract landscape of mental health.
Yeah, and nervous system regulation.
Exactly. We're aiming to give you a true shortcut, a kind of engineering manual for emotional resilience.
That's our mission, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we talk about conditions like, say, generalized anxiety or depression, the traditional story usually sticks to two main roads.
Right.
You've got the biological lane, which is all about neurochemistry, often medication. And then there's the cognitive lane, which is, talk therapy, restructuring your thoughts.
Okay, so let's unpack this shift our sources are pointing to, because they bring in this third, often, I think, overlooked dimension, the behavioral architecture.
This is where the deep dive really begins. We're looking at an emerging third pillar, the architecture of your daily behavior. The core idea, and this is backed by a ton of behavioral science, is that your nervous system regulation, how calm, how stable you feel, it's not achieved through one big aha moment in therapy.
Or sudden burst of willpower.
Not at all. It is the aggregate, the sum total of microscopic moment-to-moment adjustments you make every single day. You don't wait for resilience. You are literally building it, engineering it.
I find that framing engineering resilience so important, especially because when people are struggling, particularly with depression, they often feel like it's this huge personal failure.
A crisis of willpower.
Yeah, exactly. The voice in your head is, if I just tried harder, I'd stop ruminating, or if I were stronger, I'd get out of bed. But the research suggests that's a completely faulty premise.
It's faulty because these disorders specifically target the engine of motivation itself. They absolutely do. This is, I think, the most crucial point to grasp. Clinical depression, chronic anxiety, they systematically compromise the motivation centers of your brain. We're talking about the striatum, the dopamine reward pathways that actually get you to take action.
So telling someone to just push through is...
It's clinically ineffective. It's like telling someone with a broken leg to just, try harder at sprinting. You're demanding resources they just don't have at that moment.
So this is where the atomic habits framework comes in. It's usually talked about for, productivity or fitness, but its real power here is that it focuses on system design. It completely bypasses the need for motivation, which we know is unreliable.
Precisely. You take the burden off the person and you put it on the system, on the environment. If motivation is broken, the system has to be automated and low friction. That's the only way forward.
Okay, so we're going to examine 4 core pillars from this work, but all through the lens of mental health.
That's right. We'll look at identity-based habits, then the aggregation of marginal gains, the 1% rule, then hacking the habit loop, and finally, environment design and habit stacking.
That roadmap is perfect. Let's jump right into pillar 1, because this is where the science really confronts the stories we tell ourselves, reconstructing the self through identity-based habits. Most of us, when we're struggling, we set these very clear outcome-based goals. I want to have 0 panic attacks this month. Or, I want a lower anxiety score.
Right. And the sources argue that focusing on those symptoms is focusing on a lagging measure. It's like trying to manage your company by only looking at last quarter's profits.
You're always looking backwards.
Exactly. True. Sustainable change has to come from the core, from your identity.
So break that down. What are these 3 layers of change?
Okay, so you can picture it like an onion. The outer layer is your outcomes. That's the results, the symptoms, the scores on a test. The middle layer is your processes. That's the systems you use, like a journaling routine or a breathing technique. But the deepest layer, the core, is your identity. It's who you fundamentally believe you are. And if you only focus on the outside, on the symptoms, you're always just reacting to crises.
You're playing defense.
They're always playing defense. The anxiety flares up. You throw a bunch of willpower at it to fight the symptom. It goes away for a bit, and then you revert back to who you were before, and it comes back.
So why is shifting to identity so much more powerful? What's the mechanism there?
It's a deep psychological drive called cognitive consistency. We all have this subconscious need to make our actions align with who we believe we are. So if you internalize the identity, I am the type of person who prioritizes calm, then taking a deep breath when you're stressed is no longer a chore. It's not a weird exercise.
It's just you being you?
It's a confirmation of who you are. The psychological friction just melts away.
It's that classic distinction, right? The difference between saying, I am trying to quit drinking, which implies a constant struggle,
It sets up a conflict.
versus just, I don't drink.
I don't drink. One is an identity, the other is a fight against an identity. For mental health, that energy you save from not fighting yourself is absolutely vital.
This is so critical because mental illness is insidious. It has this way of sneaking in and replacing your positive identities like I'm a good friend or I'm a competent worker with these pathological labels.
The labels become the prison. We all do it. We say, I am an anxious person, or I'm just a depressive.
And the distinction between I'm an anxious person and I'm currently experiencing feelings of anxiety it's not just words, is it? It's neurological.
It's the difference between a permanent trait and a temporary state. One is a life sentence. The other is just weather. It's a storm passing through. It gives you back your agency.
But I have to ask a question here because sometimes that label, that identity of being an anxious patient, it feels necessary, to get validation, to access care.
That is a really important point. We are not talking about denying a diagnosis. Not at all. We're talking about your internal relationship with that label. You can accept the diagnosis for what it is, a tool to get the right help, while refusing to let it become your primary identity. You can be a person seeking resilience who is currently navigating depression. See the difference?
Yeah, that's a powerful reframe. And this labeling, you're saying, has real involuntary neurological consequences. It ties into something called the reticular activating system, or RAS.
Right. So the RAS isn't some high-level thinking part of your brain. It's an ancient bundle of nerves in your brainstem. It's a gatekeeper.
A gatekeeper for what?
For reality. I mean, you're constantly bombarded with millions of bits of data. Your RAS filters all of that and only lets through what it thinks is important. And what it thinks is important is based on your identity. It's attuned to what you focus on.
So if my identity is I am an anxious person, my RAS literally starts filtering the world to prove me right.
Precisely. It becomes the ultimate confirmation bias engine running subconsciously. If your identity is I am threatened, the RAS will highlight every potential threat. It will catalog every moment of sadness, every hesitation, every small failure, and serve it up to your conscious mind as proof.
And at the same time, it filters out the good stuff.
It dismisses it, a moment of genuine joy or competence. The RAS flags it as an anomaly, a fluke, something that won't last. It creates this vicious, self-fulfilling prophecy where your brain is literally programmed to only find evidence that validates the illness.
Which explains why avoiding things can feel so.
Right. If you identify as anxious, withdrawing from a social event is a behaviorally consistent choice.
It feels safe because you're not creating cognitive dissonance. You're not challenging the story as who you are. And that's where this next idea comes in, which is just brilliant. It bypasses that whole fight.
Casting votes for a new self.
Exactly. It's not about faking it till you make it with affirmations. That can feel like lying. This is about accumulating small, undeniable pieces of evidence.
Action over assertion. Yes. Every action you take is a vote for the person you want to become. This is how you restore a sense of agency when you feel completely paralyzed.
So let's make that really practical. If your new identity is a person who prioritizes calm, what's a low-friction vote you can cast?
Okay, so a stressful email lands in your inbox. The cue. A vote for the calm identity is just one single conscious deep breath, a physiological sigh before you open it.
Just one.
Just one. It doesn't matter if your heart is still pounding a minute later. You cast the vote. You took the pause. That's a piece of evidence. And those pieces of evidence, they stack up.
And what about for depression, where even sitting up feels like climbing a mountain? The bar has to be almost on the floor.
It has to be too small to fail. The sources are clear on this. Radically shrink the scope. For someone in a deep depressive state, the act of just sitting up in bed is not a failure to get up and shower. It is a crucial vote for the identity of I am a person who rises.
Or washing one dish, not the whole sink.
One dish, sending one text, opening one blind. Each of those is a tiny assertion of an identity that exists separately from the pathology. The goal shifts from symptom elimination, which needs willpower you don't have, to identity transformation, which just needs one small win.
Okay, so that's the who you're becoming. Pillar 2 defines how you get there. And this one directly attacks the all-or-nothing thinking that anxiety just loves. It's about consistency over intensity.
It's the power of marginal gains. This is where we bring in the math to fight the feeling that small steps are pointless.
Right, the 1% better idea. People have probably heard it, but let's apply it directly to mental resilience.
The equation is really powerful. 1.01 to the power of 365 equals 37.78. A tiny 1% improvement every day results in you being almost 38 times better after a year.
38 times.
But you have to look at the flip side, which explains how mental health crises happen. 0.99 to the power 365 is almost zero. It's 0.03. A 1% decline each day completely wipes you out.
That perfectly captures the slow, invisible slide into an episode. It's never one big thing.
Never. It's the aggregation of marginal losses. You stay up 1% later, you move 1% less, you isolate 1% more. They all compound. And recovery is the exact same process, just in reverse. It's an ascent built on thousands of invisible, tiny decisions.
And for an anxious mind, which is always catastrophizing about how far it has to go to feel normal again, focusing on just 1% must be a huge relief.
It radically reduces the cognitive load. You don't have to solve your anxiety. You just have to find a 1% improvement in your current physiological state.
What does that even look like, a 1% improvement?
It could be as simple as just dropping your shoulders away from your ears, unclenching your jaw, taking one slow exhale.
Yep.
That's it. You've just made a 1% physiological shift toward safety.
This all boils down to that core principle. Consistency is so much more important than intensity. And the reason isn't psychological, it's neurological. It's neuroplasticity.
Absolutely. Recovery is a physical rewiring process. Your brain doesn't care that much about a single intense event, like a weekend meditation retreat. That might create a temporary state of calm, but it does very little to build a long-term trait of resilience.
Because the wiring isn't there to support it.
The infrastructure isn't there. So let's talk about the two mechanisms that build that infrastructure. First, you have long-term potentiation, or LTP.
Okay.
LTP is basically the strengthening of connections, synapses between brain cells based on repeated use. So think of your anxiety pathway as a superhighway. It's big, it's fast, it's the default.
And you need to build a new road.
You need to build a competing pathway for relaxation. Every time you consistently respond to stress with a regulating breath, you fire those calm neurons. That synapse gets stronger, more efficient, the connection gets faster.
And the old anxiety highway, if you stop using it, it starts to, decay?
It literally does. It's a process called long-term depression, LTD. The brain is always optimizing. It prunes away connections that aren't being used. It's use it or lose it at a synaptic level.
Okay, so that's LTP. What's the second mechanism?
Myelination. So myelin is this fatty sheath that insulates your nerve fibers. Its job is to dramatically speed up the electrical signals.
It's like the rubber coating on a wire.
Perfect analogy. And repeated firing of a circuit stimulates the growth of that myelin sheath. So a new habit, like 1 minute of breathing, starts as a bumpy gravel road. It's slow, it takes effort.
But every time you practice, you're adding a little bit more pavement.
You're adding myelin. Consistency builds that myelin until that gravel road becomes a smooth, automatic, lightning-fast superhighway for emotional regulation.
This explains so perfectly why blitzing your mental health fails. You try to go from 0 to 60 minutes of meditation overnight.
And your nervous system is trying to run a Formula One race on a gravel road. The cognitive load is immense, the pathway is inefficient, and you burn out, you collapse.
Yeah.
And you reinforce the identity that you're a failure.
Whereas 1 minute of breathing consistently actually builds the infrastructure so that later you can handle more.
Yes. The consistency is what builds the road.
But this brings up the hardest part of the process. The results aren't immediate. You can be doing all this work, casting your votes, doing your 1%, and you don't feel better yet. This is the valley of disappointment.
This is the critical phase. This is where almost everyone gives up. We have to acknowledge this latency period because mental health progress is not linear. The valley of disappointment is that gap between the effort you're putting in and the results you can see.
And it's so easy to conclude this isn't working.
Of course, because you're looking for an immediate payoff.
Yeah.
The key is to reframe it with the ice cube analogy.
Okay.
Think of all your tiny habits, the breathing, the walking, the journaling, as slowly warming an ice cube. It's sitting there, and its temperature is rising from, say, 25 degrees to 31 degrees Fahrenheit.
Visually, nothing has changed. It's still a solid block of ice.
Exactly. You think your effort is wasted. But it's not. The energy is being absorbed. It's building the neurological architecture just beneath the surface. The potential is building up.
And the change, the melt, only happens when you hit 32 degrees.
The relief only manifests when that underlying architecture is strong enough to override the old default stress response. The breakthrough always looks sudden from the outside, but it's the result of all that invisible work.
Yeah.
You have to trust the process.
So given all this, and especially when executive function is shot because of depression, we have to shrink the intervention radically, the too small to fail habit.
A single minute of breathing will always beat 30 minutes of a failed meditation attempt. Always. Because the failed attempt just reinforces the "I am a failure" identity. A guaranteed win, no matter how tiny, reinforces the new one.
And that tiny win delivers a few key victories right away.
It delivers 3. First, you get success momentum. It's a win. You get a tiny little hit of dopamine, which is so rare when that system is compromised.
Okay, that's one.
Second, you get neurological priming. You're gently activating that new calm pathway without triggering the massive resistance that a big, difficult task would create.
And the third, and maybe the most important,
Habit installation. You are establishing the simple routine of showing up. In the early days, that's the only goal. You can't improve a habit until it's been established. You have to build the road before you can widen it.
Okay, so we've got our identity. We're embracing the small, consistent steps. Now we get into the real mechanics. Pillar 3. Hacking the habit loop for emotional regulation.
This is about deconstructing the old, automatic, maladaptive patterns.
And it all starts with understanding the 4 steps of the loop.
It's a neurological feedback system. You have a cue, which is the trigger. That leads to a craving, which is the desire to change your internal state. That leads to a response, which is the actual behavior. And finally, you get a reward, which teaches your brain to remember that loop for next time.
And with anxiety, we're seeing this learning machine working perfectly, but just on the wrong data.
It learned the wrong lesson too well. It learned that avoidance brings relief. If you can break down your own anxiety loops into these 4 parts, you gain the power to dismantle them.
Okay, let's analyze a bad anxiety loop. What are the typical cues?
They can be internal or external. An internal cue might be a rapid heartbeat or a specific worry thought like, what if I fail? An external one could be a phone notification, a crowded room, a specific person's name in your inbox.
And that cue sparks the craving. The fundamental craving in anxiety is for what?
Safety, certainty, a release of tension. The brain predicts that if it can just resolve the uncertainty or escape the perceived threat, the stress will vanish. The craving is always for a change in your internal state.
If I just check the news one more time, I'll feel in control.
Exactly. Or if I just get reassurance from my partner, I'll feel safe.
And that leads to the response, the habit itself.
And for anxiety, the response is almost always a form of short-term coping that creates long-term pain. We're talking avoidance, like procrastination. We're talking reassurance seeking, constantly checking things. Rumination, like doom scrolling. Or numbing, with food, alcohol, TV.
And here's the really dangerous part, the reward. Because avoidance in the moment, it works, it feels good.
It provides a massive, immediate hit of relief, a drop in cortisol. That feeling is a powerful form of negative reinforcement. And that reward is what teaches your amygdala, your brain's fear center, hey, that worked. Next time you feel this, do that again. Avoid.
So the very thing that brings you short-term relief is what strengthens the anxiety in the long term. The loop gets tighter and more automatic every time.
So we have to break it. And we do that by applying the inverse of the 4 laws, starting with the cue.
Inversion 1, make it invisible.
The logic is simple. No cue, no craving. You have to scrub your environment. If your anxiety is triggered by digital overload, you have to get ruthless. Remove the news apps. Silence the notifications. Better yet, put your phone in another room. Make the cue literally invisible.
And for numbing behaviors like comfort eating.
Get the cue out of the house. Don't rely on willpower to resist the cookies if they're sitting on the counter. Make the trigger invisible.
Okay. Inversion 2, make it unattractive. This is about attacking the craving.
This is a psychological move. You have to reframe the negative behavior to reduce the reward you think you're going to get.
So how does that work?
If your craving is to doom scroll, you consciously say to yourself before you do it, I am now choosing to feed my anxiety monster. Or if the craving is alcohol to relax, you reframe it. This is a loan I'm taking out against tomorrow's happiness. You make the outcome sound unattractive, which reduces the anticipated dopamine hit.
Inversion 3, make it difficult. This adds friction to the response.
This is about giving your rational brain, your prefrontal cortex, a fighting chance against your impulsive amygdala. You have to increase the number of steps it takes to do the bad habit.
So for doom scrolling, don't just delete the app.
Delete the app and install a website blocker. Add 10 seconds of delay. That tiny bit of friction is often enough to break the spell and let you make a different choice.
And finally, inversion 4, make it unsatisfying, attacking the reward.
You have to neutralize that satisfying hit of relief that avoidance gives you. The way to do that is to add an immediate cost.
Like what? An accountability partner.
That's a great one. Or a worry jar. Every time you engage in unproductive rumination, you have to put a dollar in the jar.
Yeah.
You're pairing the short-term relief with the immediate tangible pain of a financial cost. It rewires the brain's calculation of how rewarding that behavior really is.
Okay, so that's how we break the bad loops. Now we have to build the good ones. We apply the original 4 laws to engineer healthy, regulating habits.
We have to make the good stuff, those little votes for our new identity, as automatic and easy as possible.
Law 1, make it obvious. This is about the cue.
This is about externalizing your executive function when it's low. Use visual cues in your environment. If you want to journal, don't just hope you remember. Put the journal and a pen directly on your pillow.
So you can't miss it.
You literally can't get into bed without moving it. If you want to take supplements, put the bottle right next to your coffee machine. Make the right choice and the most obvious choice.
Law 2, make it attractive. This is about the craving.
This is where we use temptation bundling. It's brilliant. You pair a habit you should do, but don't really want to, with a habit you want to do.
You borrow the dopamine.
You borrow the dopamine. For example,
Wow.
you only allow yourself to listen to your favorite true crime podcast while you're on your mental health walk. The craving to the podcast pulls the healthy habit along for the ride.
Law 3, make it easy. Back to the response.
Back to the 2-minute rule. Reduce the habit until it requires almost zero willpower. The goal isn't meditate for 30 minutes. The goal is sit down and take 3 conscious breaths. The goal isn't journal for 3 pages. It's open the journal. You're just trying to get started.
And Law 4, make it satisfying. This is the reward. Since the real mental health gains are slow, we need an immediate artificial reward.
You have to close the loop right away. A habit tracker gives you that little visual dopamine hit of checking a box. Don't break the chain.
Yeah.
Or you can use immediate self-reinforcement. After you do your 2 minutes of breathing, consciously say to yourself out loud, "Good job, you showed up for yourself." You have to deliver that reward instantly to teach the brain this new path is worth taking.
This brings us to the final pillar, which ties everything together. Pillar 4 is about designing your life to automate calmness. It's about letting the environment do the heavy lifting.
It's the science of choice architecture. We've established that willpower is a depleted resource when you're struggling, so you have to stop relying on it. Your environment has to become your support system, making the right choice the path of least resistance.
So how exactly does our physical space dictate our mental state?
There are a few key mechanisms. First is context-dependent memory. If you work, sleep, and worry all in the same room, your brain starts to associate that entire space with stress and high alert. The room itself becomes a cue for anxiety.
Which is why people can't sleep. Their bedroom has become a trigger.
Exactly. The second is visual noise. Clutter. We think it's just messy, but it's an active tax on a depleted brain.
How so?
A cluttered visual field is constantly draining your processing power. It keeps cortisol levels slightly elevated because your brain is constantly getting these little signals of unfinished tasks. It lowers your threshold for getting anxious or irritated.
And the third is just pure choice architecture. The default choice wins. If your phone is on your nightstand, checking it first thing is the default.
Our job is to make regulation the default, not rumination.
Okay, let's get super practical. Let's talk design fixes for common problems. First up, morning anxiety. Waking up, grabbing the phone, instant cortisol spike.
The design fix is simple. Buy a cheap old-fashioned alarm clock and charge your phone in another room. The kitchen, the living room, anywhere but the bedroom.
You're making the bad habit invisible and difficult.
You're preventing that sympathetic nervous system activation first thing in the morning, which preserves your limited energy for the rest of the day.
Okay, what about depressive lethargy? That feeling where even small decisions like what to wear or eat feel paralyzing.
That's decision fatigue. So the design fix is to automate. Remove the decisions. Lay out your clothes the night before. Prep your breakfast. By removing that decision tax, you save your precious mental energy for actual coping.
And for insomnia, we need what the sources call sanctuary design.
Your bedroom should be a sanctuary for sleep and nothing else. Install blackout curtains. Get all blue light emitting devices out, lower the temperature. You're sending clear, powerful signals to your body that this space is for rest.
This leads perfectly into habit stacking, which is a way to engineer these resets into your day.
Habit stacking is so elegant. You pair a new habit you want to build with a current habit that's already completely automatic. You're piggybacking on an existing neural superhighway.
The formula is, after current habit, I will new habit. So let's run through some specific mental health stacks.
Okay, first, the nervous system reset stack for the morning. The anchor habit is pouring your morning coffee. something you already do without thinking.
After I pour my coffee.
I will do one physiological sigh. That's a double inhale through the nose, then a long, slow exhale through the mouth. It immediately activates your parasympathetic or rest and digest system. It ensures your day starts with regulation, not activation.
I love that. Okay, next. The gratitude stack to fight that negativity bias before bed.
The anchor is brushing your teeth at night. The new habit. After I put my toothbrush down, I will name one small thing I enjoyed today. It forces your RAS, which is primed to scan for worries, to scan for positives instead. It disrupts the pre-sleep rumination loop.
What about the transition stack for separating work stress from home life?
The anchor is closing your laptop at the end of the day, the new habit. After I close my laptop, I will take 3 deep breaths and visualize leaving work behind. It creates a psychological boundary, signaling a shift from a fight or flight state to a rest and recover state.
And finally, the simple but crucial hydration stack.
Because dehydration symptoms, lightheadedness, racing heart, can mimic anxiety. The anchor, walking into the kitchen. The new habit. After I walk into the kitchen, I will drink 1 full glass of water. It's simple, automatic, and it removes a potential physical trigger for anxiety.
And it's not just about these active stacks. The sources also talk about passive regulation through the design of your space. Biophilic design.
Yes, this is your environment acting as a passive atomic habit. It regulates you without you having to do anything.
So just having plants around can actually lower your stress levels.
Rigorously proven. Incorporating nature plants, natural light, natural textures lowers blood pressure and calms the sympathetic nervous system. It's the make it attractive law applied to your physical space. The environment itself passively supports a calmer state.
There was that research showing that even just viewing images of nature can reduce the need for anti-anxiety medication.
It's incredibly powerful. Placing a plant in your line of sight is a low-friction, high-impact regulation strategy that works on you all day long.
This entire deep dive, it's really reframed mental health recovery. It's not this one heroic act of willpower. It's a quiet, continuous process of refining these tiny daily choices.
It's an atomic accumulation of small victories. We've shown how this framework helps you bypass that willpower paralysis by focusing on your identity, on marginal gains, on hacking your loops, and maybe most importantly, on letting your environment do the work for you.
And we have to end on this one crucial idea for anyone who feels like they're stuck in that valley of disappointment. The difference between trajectory and position.
Your current emotional position, how anxious you feel right now, is a lagging measure. It reflects the habits of your past. And if you're struggling, that position might feel bleak.
But that's not the whole story.
It's not. The framework asks you to focus on your trajectory. If you create just 1% positive shift today, if you watch your face, if you do one physiological sigh, you have changed your trajectory.
You've changed the direction of the ship, even if you can't see land yet. Recovery is the lagging measure of your good habits.
Exactly. You have to trust the process. The neurological road is being built, even if you can't feel it yet. Focus on casting the daily vote, not on the final election result.
So for you listening right now, what does this all mean? We've laid out the system, but the first step is always the same.
It is. Your final thought to take away is this. Take a quiet moment and identify one specific anxiety or avoidance loop that runs your life. Name the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Get specific. And once you see that chain clearly, just choose the single easiest inversion you can make.
Not the biggest, the easiest.
The one with the lowest barrier. Maybe it's making the cue invisible. Maybe it's adding one tiny bit of friction to the response. Just recognize that the energy it takes to change your environment is so much less than the energy it takes to constantly fight temptation with depleted willpower. Start there.
A perfect low-friction place to start engineering your own resilience. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Your tools. It's the strength to build anew. It's the light to guide you through. It's the choice to find your way. Starting here, starting today.
If you take one thing away from today, let it be this. You do not need to overhaul your entire personality to feel better. You just need to be 1% better than you were yesterday. Start small. Habit stack your breathing exercises with your morning coffee. Curate your environment so your phone isn't the first thing you see in the morning. These tiny votes for your new identity eventually add up to a completely different life. Now, speaking of a different life, next week, we are starting our biggest project yet. We are launching Season 4, The Anxiety Anchor. If you have ever felt like your brain is a browser with 50 tabs open and you can't close any of them, you need to be here next Saturday. We are going to explore the hardware of your nervous system and finally explain why you feel the way you do. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You're doing better than you think. I'll catch you on your journey.